Yes, hello tradies. It's season 3. We are officially back and footy is unofficially starting this weekend. I say unofficially because we don't know what is going to happen at this stage with Tropical Cyclone Alfred. It is Tradie Season 3 brought to you by St Andrews Beach Brewery, their new brewery at Melbourne Park. It's a 4-minute walk from the Ponsford stand and it is the only place to be before a game at the G. Mitchell is here. He's in his clubby hoodie, his tradies hat. I'm very excited.
I thought I'd get kitted out for official episode 1 of season 2025. Good morning to you, Sam. You and I are both heading to the season launch later today, so We're speaking Tuesday morning.
I'm going to my favourite place.
Sydney.
We
still don't know if the game's going to go ahead on Thursday night. I think we're speaking Tuesday morning, pre 8 a.m.
They can't play.
Nah, I don't think so. I think
this is a bit like they're not going to pick him.
This could look embarrassing if people listening to this feed on Thursday and the game's about to go ahead. But I think what the AFL was doing was hoping the modelling would change for Cyclone Alfred, and I've become a bit of a Cyclone expert over the last
don't worry
2 or 3 days.
It's been brought to my attention. It has. Mitch Cleary has become Mitch Bunn. Jane Cleary.
Jane and I actually been, working together on a bit of a co-pro on a few things, so it's good.
Is that right?
Good to flesh out
a dual byline.
Yeah. But I think the AFL was hoping things would change, but it feels like the closer we're getting to Thursday, things are worsening or becoming more likely that Cyclone Alfred will cross the coast into the northern parts of Brisbane on Thursday night, early Friday. So I can't see the game going ahead right at this point.
No, it doesn't feel like it.
No.
Which would make it a bit of a flat start to the season. But the AFL can control a lot of things. The weather is not one of them. No. You have to feel for them to a degree.
First cyclone of this kind in 50 years in Queensland. So if you need me to roll off a few more stats, 130 kilometre-hour winds.
You're doing a lot of work.
Yeah, we had Jane. I missed you yesterday. We had the Footy and Friends episode as part of the Dylan Friends family.
How'd you go?
Jumped in there with Mick Barlow and Brett Delidio.
Yeah, I have to actually work.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Can't just all be just...
That was pre-9 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, so I wasn't working there.
You're probably walking Diva. Now, I should have mentioned off the top, our first ever tradies guest. It's taken until season 3. We've got our first in-studio guest.
Diva's
You
here.
brought Diva in.
Diva is here. She jumped in the back of the car this morning after an early morning walk, and she's here. She's not the most vocal, so I don't think you'll hear her. She's barked twice in her life.
Give me
as in individual barks twice.
Other dogs or...
No, she thought someone was breaking in one night, and the other time she just barked randomly while standing at the park. She must have smelled something.
Does she get flat when the suitcase comes out? So my dog
really
this morning, Baxter, he's worked it out that if the suitcase comes out, it's usually a 2 or 3 day minimum departure.
Yeah, I want to take Diva with me on the plane. I think I should be allowed.
Well, you drove to Sydney last time you were there.
I know, but I'm only there for 36 hours this time, so I don't think... In fact, it's not even. It's 24.
So you won't stick around until Friday for the footy?
I can't, Mitch. I have to come back and work.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Are you gallivanting around in Sydney until Friday?
You can't work remotely.
Are you gallivanting?
Well, I was planning on going to Brisbane lunchtime tomorrow, being Wednesday, but as we said, I reckon that's looking unlikely.
Now, I was all excited last night because I was getting ready for Classified and I wanted to see what the agenda setters were saying. But there was no show.
No, next week it's back.
I don't understand, but footy starts this week.
Yeah, but we're setting the agenda from next week, so 7+.
Wouldn't setting the agenda mean that you to start from the start?
Let a bit of footy breathe, and we're underway from next week. It's a new era. I did see actually Channel 9 and Fox both trying to claim the new era title, given 7 have been running with that for the best part of 3 or 4 months. So that was nice to see you guys follow us in there.
What? I didn't say new era.
No, you didn't, but I saw the 9 socials and
socials.
Bit of a sell online, and Fox was claiming that in the paper on the weekend.
Oh, I see. You're a bit sort of touchy about
No.
about this.
It's a new era over at 7.
Did you watch Classified?
I did.
How'd we go?
It was good, punchy.
Okay.
I thought it was good hearing what you've shared about the likes of Essendon over the off-season, to hear it then on Footy Classified and see you butt heads with Matthew Lloyd and not be the one butting heads with you was quite nice.
Can you believe that Lloydie thinks that Essendon should be winning 12 to 13 games this year?
They
nearly
won't.
fell off my chair.
They won't, but I'm with him. Like I said on this show in the previews, and if you want to catch up on your teams, we've done the last 3 weeks of club-by-club previews ahead of the season and what each club needs. Hawthorn last year in a similar position. They were a young list.
Hawthorn have good players.
Essendon have good players as
No,
well.
they don't.
We, as Lloydie said last night,
Who? I sound like
We were
Margaret.
saying
I sound like Margaret Robbie on Wolf of Wall Street.
we were saying the same about Hawthorn last year.
Not like this.
Yeah, like we weren't expecting like John Newcombe to become, an out-and-out star. We were still waiting to see if Will Day would pop. He did. Marby or Chol came in and had a great season. We weren't expecting that. Cal Shadir comes in. Like Essendon have these sort of guys.
No, they don't. Who?
Zach Merritt's a superstar.
Yeah, okay, we know that.
Sam Durham, Nate Caddy's going to rise. Like if Cal Shadir can
Sam
do it.
Durham was a rookie that played one good year. Nate Caddy is going into his second year.
Well, Cal Shadir played
as a baby giraffe.
Cal Shadir played year one last year and stood up in big finals.
Yeah, but he was coming into a forward line that was slightly more developed. They've
Yeah,
taken Stringer out. I don't understand how they kick goals. They've got a poor defence.
I'm with you on the goals. I think if Ridley, Mackay, and there's one other, Reed, can all play together, this is not a me defending.
Yeah, but
Essendon,
if Diva
I'm
was
saying
fast, she would have won races.
They
Like,
should
lots
be
of ifs and
pushing for the.
buts.
Hey,
If Diva was fast, she would have won races, but like she wasn't. So
they should be pushing for the finals,
that's just
but they won't.
that's just incorrect. That can't. That's an incorrect opinion. That can't be right.
As Tony Cochran said, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one.
Oh, Tony Cochran, blast from the past. Should we get straight into the whiteboard?
We should.
There's a couple of big stories that I think are going to explode. It's going to be a big trade period. The whiteboard in season 3 brought to you by HBF Health Insurance, your health dream team. Make the trade to HBF today. That's how well it's going.
Ooh.
We found a sponsor. Do you want to kick us off? And we have a new whiteboard too.
Brand new whiteboard.
Yeah, none of these little sort of smaller kind of take as you go. We've got a standing whiteboard. It's got wheels.
Is it going to be a permanent fixture here in the studio when the others roll through here throughout the week?
Well, it's up to Scotty to make sure that it needs to be sacrosanct.
I don't want to see Nick Butler and Sam Draper putting their names up. Well, Sam Draper can put his own name up there.
Sam
if he
Draper's
wants.
name's going to go up there.
Oh, today?
Well, maybe. You have to wait and see.
All right, well, am I putting my first name up?
Go.
All right.
I'll commentate this. Always rattles me that Mitch is a left-hander. Always. You would have been considered a witch in medieval times.
What is it? 1 in 10 people are left-handed, something like that?
Chad Warner.
And it's a carryover from last year's last episode where we discussed Chad Warner, still out of contract and no movement on an extension to stay with the Swans. Swans are keen to keep him. He's got 2 years to run until free agency, but he's going to have mega offers coming out of the West with both Fremantle and West Coast. So he is probably the biggest name out of contract this year. Could be a top 5 player in the competition by the end of it. And right now, he's weighing up some big options.
He must have been excited on the weekend that rip-snorting match between West Coast and North Melbourne, and his team got over the line. They must have been. They're the sort of performances when you have 12 inside 50s to half-time and you manage to get over North Melbourne. They're the sort of performances that really make you want to go to West Coast.
He would have seen Harley's performance and thought, yeah, I can see myself playing with that guy.
What, 14 disposals?
Yeah, the watches on Harley early in the season. He's had an interrupted pre-season, so let's hope he can hit the ground running.
Well, it's
gonna take a
ridiculous
bit of
because
time.
there's way too much pressure on him because he hasn't got any teammates that are good.
Well, was the same last year.
A little bit different last year. He probably had some more. I mean, the fact that Sheed's out this year for the year,
Yo's injured to
Yo
start
not
the year.
playing. Like I feel like Harley played a lot of his good footy when Yo was kind of there taking a bit of the heat from him.
That's fair. Yeah.
So missing senior bodies as a second year player, I think will have a really big impact on him.
Yeah.
And the expectations are unfair. So
I'm not saying he needs to be an All-Australian this year, but we just want to see a bit more of what we saw last year.
Yep.
And right now with the pre-season, I don't think he's given himself the best opportunity to do that early in the year with the interrupted pre-season he's had.
Yep. Is he the most valuable player on the open market, Chad Warner?
Yes, I think so, because we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the type of midfielders that attract big offers and clubs go hard for. He's a burst, explosive type midfielder. He is different to a Matt Rao or an inside midfielder. These are guys that clubs salivate over and throw the kitchen sink at because they can turn games of footy off their own back in the space of a quarter. Chad Warner can do that. In terms of the other guys, there's some big free agents, which we'll get to, I'm sure, Davies Uniacke, Tom de Koning. But in terms of pure out-of-contract players and value, Chad Warner, we're looking at minimum 2 first-rounders, potentially more, to convince him to go back to the West. Now,
is he a 2 top tenner?
Yeah, I think we're getting into that conversation. Where do you sit?
Yeah, probably. Given age profile and his ability to break games open,
Yeah.
Bolton was, 2 picks inside 16? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it 10 and 16-ish?
And then one went, so it was
one went
3
back.
and then one back. Yeah.
So Warner's probably, 8 and 12-ish
Yep.
would be my take.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fair price to pay, but it's you're getting something really good through the door.
Do you have a read on which club's ahead right now? Because a lot of the noise is West Coast.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, West Coast obviously are going to have the most salary cap to spend.
Yeah.
It'll be blank check sort of stuff. But again, and I know I had a bit of fun with it last year, I can't for the life of me understand why you'd leave Sydney for West Coast. Just makes no sense if you're chasing any sort of vague success.
If you're looking at West Coast salary cap situation right now, they've got so much money to spend with the big names departing over the last couple of years and that will depart over the next year or two. He'll be looking, I reckon, at somewhere between $300,000 to $500,000 a season extra the Eagles can offer him than what the Swans will be able to with their cap.
$300,000 to $500,000 per season.
Yeah.
So we're talking
I reckon,
potentially a $3 to $5 million difference if you're getting a long-term double-figure deal.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cash.
Mm.
It's a lot of Kanga.
Yeah. Have you got your first whiteboard entry for season 2025?
Thank you.
So Sam, just to paint the picture, he's in the black Clubby Sports hoodie. He's got the grey track pants, sweatpants offering.
It's the first time I've worn track pants. But you made us record early this morning, and I didn't get to bed till after midnight.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to unwind a little bit after a show?
God,
When you hear players,
shocking.
I can't get to bed until 2 a.m. after a night game.
I'm shocking. Just sat there and watched. What was I watching? I was watching Family Guy reruns last night, falling asleep on the couch.
Yeah, Family Guy for a while.
Well, neither did I. It put me to sleep though.
So this
LDU.
I was going to say the last time you put 3 letters on the whiteboard, it was SWC.
Yeah, St Kilda War
Causes
Chest.
a few ripples.
Isn't everyone sort of following the War Chest out, aren't they? Davies Uniac.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that should be concerning to him happened on the weekend. And that is not to say that, we shouldn't place too much emphasis on preseason games. I completely understand that. But for North Melbourne and where they're at and where their list demographic is at, every moment matters. We played on Classified last night that the national recruiting manager said after they traded their first pick to Richmond, their future first, we've got enough kids now.
Yeah.
Right. So
they should.
They've told us that this is the group. We're ready to go. They have 12 of the top 15 ball winners on the weekend. 12 of the top 15. They conceded just 12 inside 50s in the first half, and they find a way to lose. Larkey played, Zerha played, Darling played. They had 6 top 10 draft picks played, Davies Uniac being one of them.
Sheasel was dominant.
And Sheasel was comfortably the best player on the ground, already moving towards A-grade sort of territory.
Ooh.
Luke has the biggest decision of his life to make. And with every moment that goes on, he's getting more information.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like forget about the clubs that are chasing him because there's going to be, we know St Kilda. We know that Geelong will be making, after having a crack at Clayton Oliver last year.
You're putting Geelong in the conversation?
I'm putting Geelong in the conversation. Yep. Collingwood are in the conversation. Essendon are in the conversation. Don't rule out Carlton.
Gee whiz.
Hawthorn if they miss out on Harley.
Surely, just on Carlton, surely it's only a conversation if Tom DeConing leaves.
Correct.
The cap is too tight otherwise.
Correct. They'd have to ship one. Yep. And Tom would be that one. He's going to have probably half a dozen clubs come to him with $1 million plus offers. Now, as I've said on this pod before, cash is not going to be that big a thing for him because North are going to be able to probably match and better any offer that he gets. But this is now about his career. How long does he want to stay here for? Now, again, things can change quickly. North could beat up on, an undermanned Dogs in round 1. They could get on a little roll. They could be in the positive at the halfway mark. And all of a sudden it's like, well, why wouldn't you stay?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you right now, they keep going down the road that they're going where you just don't see improvement. And no one could begrudge him for leaving that club. This is no longer about loyalty. He's been loyal.
Is this a mid-season conversation? Do we think this drags on?
It has to, doesn't it? Like
I don't think he's not signing in the first month of the season from the information I've got.
well, if he did, it would be just about the most loyal thing any player has done in recent memory.
He's played 108 games,
And what he would have paid in 23 wins or something.
21 wins.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
It's a fine line on this one from North Melbourne side of things. So it's different to the Ben Mackay scenario where both were restricted free agents. But if North Melbourne rise up the ladder a little bit and Luke decides to leave, they'll have a decision to make is do we match the offer that he gets elsewhere? Because North Melbourne will have as much money to match the offer as anyone in the competition. So we're using hypotheticals here. St Kilda offer 1.6 over 9 years or maybe 7 years for a player like Luke. North Melbourne will have the ability to match that with where their salary cap is at. But if they finish bottom 2 or 3, I think you just let him walk because you're getting a top 3 or 4 pick. The question will be if they rise up the ladder a little bit and finish.
Even though they don't have their first pick this year.
Yeah. Well, but back to Will Thursfield's comments you raised, they feel like they've got enough.
Yeah, which makes the potential of losing Davies Uniacke even more galling.
Yes. But I think, and to flip it the other way, a club like Hawthorn, I think would only entertain this because they don't have the picks right now to sort of to get into a bidding war with North Melbourne. They would only entertain this if it was a pure, straight up free agency acquisition, not where the Jeremy Cameron one where you have to get into a trade situation. So it's going to be really interesting to see where North can get to if Luke decides to leave and what those clubs have to offer, or it's just a free agency move.
Saints in front?
Yeah, I just think pure weight of salary cap room. And they've been in his ear for a little while now.
Who are you going to next?
Well, Luke Jackson.
Oh, yes. Oh, we played. Geez, Justin Longmuir, not the biggest fan of Em Cleary right now. You cause him some headaches.
So I'm putting him on the whiteboard, not saying he's going to leave right now, but I'm putting him on my HBF Dream Team whiteboard because he is on Melbourne's whiteboard right now. They are in a position where they think his head could be turned on a move at the end of the season.
So you're talking about the Demons?
Yes.
Not just Melbourne clubs?
Melbourne clubs, but more specifically the Demons. Yeah.
So this is Lockie Neal all over again.
Yeah, why would a person who is not from that state want to go to a state? Is that what you mean? You know, why would a WA, well, Lockie was South Australian, but why would a South Australian Neil living in WA want to go to Queensland?
No. I'm talking about the fact that he was at Freo.
Ah, yes.
He went to Brisbane, and then at the end of 21, remember when we were in lockdown? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure who broke the story, but it was might have been you.
I was working on it. I didn't break it though. They're the ones that hurt you the most.
You know, he was considered to. He's still burnt 4 years later. He was considering going back to Perth.
Yep.
So, and everyone's like, no, he just left. It's the same, almost the same situation.
Yeah.
It was a great story. I mean, it baffles me.
So he signed a 7-year deal to join Freo, end of 22.
Extraordinary.
That's signed until 2029. He's a premiership player at the Melbourne Footy Club. He's maintained a close relationship with Simon Goodwin. Now, he went home for family reasons and to live in his native state of WA, but his off-field has changed since that time. He's now got a new partner, Kelsey Brown, a former Australian netballer for the Diamonds.
Star person, Kelsey.
Yep. She has expanding work opportunities here in Victoria and on the East Coast. Now, she maintains a role as an ambassador for the West Coast Fever, but as we've discussed in now 3 seasons of Tradies, the lure of the partner.
Oh, here we go. Here goes Mitch, Scotty. Here he goes.
And the better half in these footballers' lives has a big impact on their decision making. And Melbourne and clubs here in Victoria feel that the door is ajar and they think they can burst it open right now to get him back to Victoria because of what's happened off field. Not to mention the fact that, yes, he knew what he was signing up for when he joined Fremantle as the ruck next to Sean Darcy, but he's about to enter his prime as a footballer. He's 23 right now. Does he see the next 5 years of his career playing forward ruck next to Sean Darcy, who will be the preferred ruck option at the Dockers? Max Gawn turns 34 in December. He already has strong relationships at the Demons, and they'll be looking for a long-term successor to Gawn in the next 12 months. They've sort of played around with stopgap options around Gawn, but he can't play forever, Max. He's a 7-time All-Australian. the tread on those tyres is getting a little thin, and the Demons will make a play for Luke Jackson this year.
What was the original trade?
It was 2 first rounders and a second rounder for Luke Jackson.
Well, what's he worth now?
Well, that's where you throw in the Cozzy Pickett part of this conversation. Cozzy last year, when we spoke about the homesickness, and we spoke about this on Tradies, was making moves behind the scenes to try and get back to WA end of last year, despite having 3 years to run on his Melbourne contract. I see a world where it's Cozzy Pickett and something, potentially a late first rounder, for Luke Jackson. That feels to me the right ballpark for this conversation. And getting back to the first man I put on the whiteboard, Chad Warner, there isn't a world right now where Fremantle can afford both Chad Warner and Cozzy Pickett. If they want both, something will have to give, and Luke Jackson is a fair piece of that puzzle.
How would Melbourne fans react to Pickett out, Jackson in, do you think?
If they got something else, it would appease them. I reckon Melbourne fans would be getting their head around the fact now that Cozzy won't be finishing his career as a Demon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And if you can get a long-term replacement for Gawn, a guy who's already won a flag for your footy club, a guy who turned the grand final in
that third quarter.
2021.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I think it's a positive for the Demons. He's a game changer for them.
Yeah.
And agreed, like the Pickett thing just feels like it's happening and you've got not much control over it, so you might as well cash in if you can. Jackson's still at a great age. He's exactly what they need. You know, the fact that he can go forward if and when they need him to is a plus.
I want to reiterate, he's happy at Fremantle. He's not agitating to get out. But the clubs here believe that there's a door to be walked through on this one. You asked about the Melbourne scenario. What would they think about Cozzy leaving for Jackson? What would Freo fans think if Jackson went out, but it would allow them to get Warner and Pickett?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think you'd be ropeable on Jackson. Ropeable. That, you know, he came across, they threw the kitchen sink at him, he signed a long-term contract. He's from WA. But if you then get your head around, well, you're getting a game-changing small forward and a game-changing midfielder, both that are in the prime of their careers, I think you get over it pretty quick, don't you?
Yeah.
And you've still got Darcy.
Yeah. A fit Darcy is the key here. I think Freo fans, if they can see 20 games out of Sean Darcy this year, they would be happy to let that happen. But that is an if with Sean Darcy's recent track record with his body.
Yep. A great story. All right, I'm going number 2. Also 3 letters.
Okay. He's very economical with his wording here on the HBF whiteboard. Oh.
JUH.
Jamara Ugle-Hagan.
Yeah, he's on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
And he's just a watch. He's going to be a watch the whole year. He's Bailey Smith 2.0, really, with the fact that there's just going to be talk about him all year. We don't know when he's going to play. He's got some relationships to rebuild at the Dogs. Bont being one of those. Rory Lobb, who he lived with. Things with the coach, Luke Beveridge, haven't been as good as they can be.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there's different scenarios that can play out here. But the reason that he's on the whiteboard is that the longer he isn't playing football, the more that people will speculate that his future is away from the kennel. And if and when he does come back, he's invariably going to show his extraordinary talents, which will therefore get other clubs salivating. So, you know, the Brisbane Lions have showed interest. Damo reported on Classified that now maybe they're having second guesses, but those second guesses can reverse as soon as they see him kick 5 and turn on a dime and turn someone inside out. And, you know, like he's a generational talent. He's not yet a generational footballer because he hasn't shown it, but he's a generational talent.
This guy won the goal kicking last year for the Bulldogs in a team that made finals.
Yeah.
He was ready to go. He was ready to go until this preseason.
Yeah, he's only 22. He's clearly had some complicated issues. Would being away from Melbourne help that? I mean, there's arguments to say it would. There's arguments, you know, historically that others have struggled when they think they're getting away from the bubble, but their problems can only increase. So, you know, there's different arguments to that, but he may end up being a type of player that you get for lesser value than he would otherwise be worth. Because let's be honest, like if Jamara Ugle-Hagan had played a good final last year and had a fit and firing preseason, and he's 22, we'd be talking about him as he's probably trade-wise the most valuable person in the competition, like even more than Chad Warner, because there are fewer of him.
Yep. We'll go back 12 months. I remember season launch last year reporting about Hawthorn's big offer for Jamara Ugle-Hagan.
That's right.
Hawthorn and Sydney were among the clubs offering more than 1.2 a year for Jamara Ugle-Hagan over 8 or 10-year deals.
Yep.
He signed a 2-year deal to stay with the Bulldogs to give him a bit more flexibility with where his decision-making was going to head to next.
Yep. And, it may be the right time for Jamara to move as well, contractually, because, it would probably not be the right time right now if he was coming out of contract at the end of this year, because he'd have less security. He'd be more open to clubs lowballing him with something to say, well, we got to prove yourself. But with a year left on his deal, it's probably, for him and for the Dogs, going to enable the right sort of trade if, in fact, he does want to leave Melbourne and if, in fact, he does want to leave the Western Bulldogs. But there are so many teams, Melbourne being one of them, we just talked about Luke Jackson, that are crying out for this type of guy.
Yep.
And he's, we've said this before on this pod, is the juice worth the squeeze? Well, it probably is with Jamara.
And you look at the Swans as well. So you talk about Brisbane outside of Victoria. The Swans had a big crack last time. If Chad Warner does in fact leave, there's money there to play with in the cap. There's going to be draft picks to play with. And their forward line is a question for me. Look at the grand final last year. McLean, Amati and McDonald didn't get it done. McDonald was on one league, but he's, yet to prove it at the higher end of AFL footy. So, yeah, Jamara is clearly going to be a watch. I think it was Lloydie's point last night, or maybe Jimmy. The Dog's going to have to play him at some point, because if he does get out or does want to get out, his trade value is not going to be worth a whole other lot if he's running around in the twos for the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get a whole lot for Bailey Smith in the end. You couldn't have a Jamara leave for something less than he's worth. I guess there is another weird argument that's been put to me in the last 48 hours that is he absolutely required at the Dogs?
That's another question, isn't it? They've given Norton a long-term deal. Darcy could be
the best player in the competition in 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, he really could be.
Yeah.
He could be the most game-changing forward that we've seen in decades.
And Jamara doesn't ruck.
Not
that that's a knock because he's going to be a star, but
yeah,
Darcy does. So it's not like you need him like a Joe Danaher does for Brisbane. We're talking different ball game here.
Yeah, I agree. I guess my argument back to that, the cynical argument is, hang on, it's not as though the Bulldogs are, dominating the competition.
No.
And these sort of players don't come through your footy club very often. So you'd be wanting to keep Darcy and Jamara. And, if Norton stays, that's great. As the forward, but he could move back. You want your bookends staying at the club, right? And he's a marketer's dream as well. So there is a level of irony for me that if Jamara was to leave, they lose in consecutive years, arguably two of the most 5 marketable players the game has ever seen in Jamara and Bailey Smith. And they're not a big club. Like, they need all the marketable players they can get. So that would be a sad irony for the Dogs if he was to leave.
Yep. Then there's the Bont, who's still out of contract.
Yeah.
As an unrestricted free agent.
He couldn't leave. You think he could?
That club with a coach out of contract is a watch.
It's vulnerable.
Yeah,
it's vulnerable.
It is. I think Bont stays, but I'm not putting a line through him leaving just yet.
Anyone else for the whiteboard for you?
All right, I'm going to put Matt Rowell up.
Oh, boy.
Just to recap the story from the off-season, he met with Geelong. Others have since reported that he met with Collingwood and Essendon as well. He's exploring whether he wants to play his football in Victoria or stay on the Gold Coast. Now, there's still a lot of positivity around him sticking with the Suns. His close mate has just become captain. There is strong links for him to stay at the Suns. This is not Matt Rowell banging down the door to leave, but he does have a decision to make right now, and it is going to be one to watch over the early parts of the season. A bit like Luke Davies-Uniacke, if the Suns start well, I reckon it makes Matt Rowell's decision a little easier. He needs to see a little bit of progress here, and he said as much in a press conference around 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now, he's 24. He's 2 years away from free agency. Does he just sign 2 years to get him to free agency for the Suns?
That feels like the most likely, would you say?
Yeah, these guys like to give themselves a chance, especially when, the Suns are just stacked now in terms of their list and where they're at. I don't think they want for much, this Gold Coast list. And if Matt Rowell had a look around and did his own list analysis, he would find that the Suns list, again, on paper, is as well placed as anyone to contend over the next couple of years. So maybe he buys himself another 2 years. He's close with Ben King, who's got a year to run after this. But there are clubs here making a big play for Matt Rowell. In terms of his trade value, I think we discussed it. I reckon it's a top 12 sort of pick. He's a different conversation to Chad Warner and Luke Davies-Uniacke in that inside mids don't have the same cachet on the open market as some of these explosive burst types. But there is well and truly a market for Matt Rowell right now.
Very good player, Matt Rowell.
Yeah.
Not a game changer.
He's not, but you need Matt Rowells in your side to win premierships.
You need Matt Rowells. Who's in front?
For his signature? Look, I think if Collingwood had their first round pick, I'd have them right in the conversation.
Makes it tough.
But they don't, given the Houston deal at the end of last year. Look, Geelong, Essendon, throw them in the conversation. I don't have a clear front runner right now.
I tell you what, if you were Zach Merritt, you'd love a Matt Rowell next year, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and we'll debate this all year. I don't think Essendon's midfield is the biggest need. I think a key forward for them, I'd be having a look at one of Matt Rowell's teammates, Ben King.
But you said that Nate Caddy's the next Charlie Curnow.
Yeah, well,
so their forward line's fine.
Well, Charlie Curnow needs his Harry Mackay.
Sorry, can you just take me through Essendon's midfield again? I'm trying to work out.
All right, so Merritt,
very A grader, superstar.
Yep, I'm just bringing this up so I don't miss anyone. Darcy Parish's body has let him down this preseason, but he's an All-Australian and he's only 27.
So he's in your start. He's your second best, is he? Okay.
Nick Martin will roll through there this year.
Problems.
He's 24. Jai Caldwell, I think, popped last year and he's going to continue to get better.
Okay.
Jai Caldwell is only 24 years of age. Sam Durham has gone more inside. He's 23. Elijah Sardis, top 5 pick, is entering year 3. I think it's time for him this year as well.
You can't mention Sardis because he's been playing twos.
And that's
about it. Yep.
That's about it.
No, it's a star-studded midfield that you've just mentioned. No,
Ben Hobbs.
No,
Ben
you're
Hobbs
right. You convinced me that their midfield does not need any help at all.
I just think
Sorry, Matt Rowell, if you're listening, don't go to. You're going to struggle to get a game at Essendon.
No, he's not going to. I don't think.
No,
Essendon...
I can see Brad Scott's just sitting there right now thinking we don't need any more help in the midfield. We are stacked.
Archie Perkins will roll through there at times.
Okay, do you want me to? I'll put Rowell up for the whiteboard for you because I'm going to add a third one.
Yep. I'm just trying to work out Essendon's other mids. They do have 2 first-round picks this year, which would make it easier to go for a player like Matt Rowell, as our commentator Sam adds his third name to the whiteboard.
Letters today.
Oh. So we've got LDU, JUH.
TDK. Do you like how I planned this? This is at 2:00 in the morning when I was halfway through season 21 of Family Guy. I was thinking tomorrow is going to be a letter episode. So I come at the deconing situation a little differently. He's clearly a gigantic talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's the player that everyone thinks that he could be. Max Gawn said in the captain's day that he could be the best player in the competition.
Is he just...
Which I thought was an extraordinary comment. And I love Max.
Is he just going in a bat for his fellow rucks?
Potentially. Some of his flashes and some of his, quarters or halves have been, very exciting.
Yep.
But he doesn't really string it together that often.
He's 26.
Yes.
It's not like we're talking about a 22-year-old here.
Yes. But, the taller guys can take...
Yeah, there, for sure. Yep.
Can take longer. How many games do you reckon Tom de Koning's played?
26. It means he's entering his 8th year in the competition. I'm going to pluck a figure. What did I say? Luke Davies-Uniacke's played 108 games of footy. I'll say TDK's played 95.
Yeah, I thought it was over 100 as well. Well, closer. He's played 78.
78, wow.
How many Brownlow votes?
9.
1.
Wow.
I'm not absolutely certain that he's the player that everyone thinks he is. Now he might be. I mean, now I can hear people screaming at their Spotify. Well, Ruckman don't get Brownlow votes. I understand that.
Scott Wine did.
But, Max Gawn, the guy that said on Captain's Day that he was going to could be the best player in the competition. You look through from his fourth year of football, his Brownlow votes in seasons, 4, 16, 3, 20, 17, 13, 16, 12, 7, 13. Now, again, people will be yelling at me, well, you can't compare Gawn to Koning. But the money that's being thrown around would suggest to me that he is being thought of in some sort of hemisphere of that type of player. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we're going to throw 1.6 at him for long term. Oh, but, you can't say that he hasn't had a good career so far. Well, he hasn't. It's been mediocre. Numbers-wise, it's been mediocre.
Yep. What would you go to if you were St Kilda? So the average player wage right now is $500 to $550 a year?
Yeah, and I'm arguing against myself a little bit here. So St Kilda are in a mode where they, A, have to get as many good players as they can in, and B, they have to make some noise and stir the pot a little bit and show that they're members that they are going. So, De Koning's a high flyer. He's dual positioned, beautiful long blonde hair. He's marketable. I understand why they're throwing the kitchen sink at him. But if I'm Carlton, so the difficult part for Carlton is that if they finish up towards the top end of the ladder, which they should, they're not going to get heaps for him, right? Like they may end up getting, pick 16 for him or something.
Yeah, but he's restricted, so you can then force a trade like the Jeremy Cameron one if you want.
You could.
But you've got to have enough money to match the deal.
Which I'm not convinced they do.
Where St Kilda could blow them out of the water with a deal.
Yeah. So it's a hard one for Carlton because I don't think him leaving would be the end of the world team-wise. But you'd also want to be well remunerated for him. So I ask you this question, and I was thinking about it last night.
At 2 a.m.?
Yeah, it's about 2:15. If Tom De Koning was just, and I've asked you this before with other players, just a draft value right now, what would he be? So a fair and equitable trade for Tom De Koning right now would be pick what in this year's draft?
10.
Yeah, I had 12. Yep. So I think we're in the same ballpark.
Then I'm looking at it and think if Tom De Koning was in the draft this year, you'd take him in the top 10 comfortably.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So maybe I'm leaning more towards pick 8 the more I think about it.
Okay, we've slid up from 10 to 8. I'm sticking hard at 12, by the way.
You'll stick hard in episode, but you'll fluctuate week to week, as we've seen over.
Yeah, no, it's unlike me to fluctuate. So, look, if you had a fit and healthy Mark Pitnet, and you could turn the money that you would have spent on De Koning into another gun key back next to Wiedering or another gun mid, I'm doing that. I'm doing that every day of the week. I think that gets them closer to a flag. So I'll use the example of Melbourne, right? Like watching them on the weekend. Geez, it was good to see Clary and Track back towards their best footy, right?
Yeah.
They both played beautifully. We know that they're both superstar players, A-graders. And they played like it. Max Gawn was mighty. They got no one kicking their goals. This was my whole point last year, is like both these guys want out. See if you can turn one of them into a goal-kicking forward. They didn't do their due diligence in my humble opinion. They got too caught up with entitlement and this whole thing of no, we're keeping them. No one's taking them.
Was their value too low? Like, would it have been selling low last year? Not
if they could have turned it into Harry Mackay or Ben King or one of these forwards. I don't think so. The Blues need to ask themselves what they desperately need in this list in order to be closer to a flag. What is costing them? Now, maybe the answer to that is No. Deconing is the answer. Like, we've got all the other pieces that we have. We want this potential superstar ruckman. Maybe that's the answer, and that's fine. If so, you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay for him.
Do you sit in the ballpark of a club not needing an out-and-out star ruckman to win a flag, like Darcy fought last year for Brisbane?
Well, this has been one of your big things, right? Because you've said that before, and I'm coming around to that. You know, unless it's Max Gawn, and Max Gawn's probably, you know, there's 5 to 10 of him a century, sort of thing. Unless you're that, well, then I think you just, you know, there's plenty of clubs right now. You could probably mention 6 or 7 of them that don't have superstar ruckman, but guys that compete really heavily, bring the ball to ground, play their 80% in the ruck.
Lloyd Meek, Jordan Sweet, these guys.
Kieran Briggs.
They all played finals last year.
Yeah. I'm not sure you need to be paying 7 figures for a ruckman. Now, again, if Tom De Koning was coming off a year where he came second in the best and fairest and he polled 14 Brownlow votes, I can understand. But he's not. So if I was a Carlton supporter, I wouldn't be sweating as much as some of them seem to be on whether he leaves or stays.
Yeah.
Because I think life after TDK will be okay.
Unless they go deep and you're getting a pick 17 or 18 for Tom De Koning, and that would be a concern.
Yeah, it would be. But again, I would look at how big a part he was in them going deep.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he may not be. And I'm just having a look at his... Oh, so he's been pretty consistent, actually. So two games in his first year, then 7, then 13. The last 3 years he's played 19, 19 and 18. So actually good numbers for a guy who has had some injury concerns with his body.
All right. Leave it at 3 each for the whiteboard.
Okay, so on Mitch's HBF Dream Team whiteboard, we've got Chad Warner, Luke Jackson, Matt Rowell. And on mine, LDU, JUH and TDK.
If you were in a schoolyard and it was 4v4, so those 3 plus yourself, who are you taking?
So it's me on one side, you on the other?
Yeah.
Jeez. Who am I taking first or what?
No, like which team? So you got Warner, Jackson and Rowell and me?
Obviously mine. Although TDK v Luke Jackson would be a good matchup. Warner v LDU would be. It's probably Rowell v LDU, and then Warner would be really undersized in the goal square against Jamara.
I'll go to Jamara. He's had a shortened pre-season.
How many would he kick on you in the first quarter? He'd kick 12 on me in the first quarter, I think. Okay, that's the whiteboard for the season opener edition of Tradies.
Can I get to my audio that I've just been holding back?
Sure, you can get to whatever you want.
This is Kane Corn speaking on SEN yesterday. It felt like sort of out of nowhere. This is him talking about you.
Scoop's happy with himself, isn't he? Like, so I did a list.
Scoop's happy with himself.
I did a list.
You were worried
last
about
week.
me picking on him, and you start with that.
On Wednesdays, on Sports Day, Kane's Countdown. There's a list every week, and last week's was the most sensitive people in football, which you had a bit of a laugh about on Friday.
Yeah.
You know the topic of this week's list?
Yeah.
I'm going to go early here and reveal the topic. People involved in football with the biggest egos.
Roosters.
Yeah. And Scoop, I'm just giving it Scoop's number 1.
Daylight 2.
Well, there's many.
He's the Nick Dacos of Peacocks.
There's many people in this industry that are very comfortable in their own skin, but none more so than Scoop McClure.
You've just been compared to Nick Dacos. That's good.
Firstly, it's nice to hear Kane coming up with his own list.
That's good.
No, I thought I had a good laugh. That was very funny. But you know, Kane is an excellent analyst of football, and I love listening to him, and I love watching him, and I'm excited to watch him on 7. But if that's what he genuinely thinks of me, then he probably doesn't know me that well.
You haven't known each other for a long time, though, and it's a Cox Plate field. Egos in footy, and he's put you at number 1.
Do you think I deserve to be up there?
You might make the field, but maybe 1 might be a bit of a stretch given some of the people in footy.
All right. Well, if the general consensus is that I have a big ego, then that's people are welcome to their own opinions.
Should we take people through our plan for the year? Because we've got 3 episodes a week now.
Yes, please.
So Tuesday will be the main episode that we're in right now.
We may have to change the time. I'm not sure if I can.
Oh, we're already okay. Yeah.
We're not sure I can do early morning Tuesdays after classified. I might. Yeah, might be a bit of a diva and ask that we do a later record.
Okay.
I haven't heard much from Diva, by the way. She hasn't added heaps. She's a bit flat about Jamar potentially leaving the Dogs.
After a stunning start in 2024, the air raid is back.
Oh, yes. Geez, I'm excited.
People have demanded it. It returns on Wednesdays. And then we've got our own breakaway just quickly on Thursday.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening to the main body and thinking, where are the Just Quicklies? The Just Quicklies have taken off to such a degree that Mitch, the creator of the Just Quicklies and the owner of the IP, has demanded that it be a breakaway pod. So it'll be a separate app.
Yep.
So we'll have you fully covered here on Tradies.
Yep.
Full trade wrap every single week in the main body. Air raid so that you and I can go on a bit of a rant about something footy related that's not trade. And then the Tradies fans get their go.
Yep.
And this year we've got I think we're going to have some St Andrews Beach Brewery stuff to give away.
Ooh, okay.
Throughout the year for some of our Just Quicklies.
I heard there's a live show coming up down at St Andrews Beach Brewery as well, down at Melbourne
You
Park.
haven't been down there yet, have you?
No.
So I went down and had a tour. Tim and Carla gave me a tour of the brewery. Unreal.
Yep.
I've already booked a table for me and my mates. I actually forgot to invite you. You're welcome to come.
Okay, yes, thank you.
No, you'll be working for Richmond Carlton
Yep.
pre-game.
I'm already looking forward to once opening round's done, getting down to the brewery and having a look when the footy's back. Great vibe around Melbourne Park.
Because you'll have Fridays off, won't you?
Yep.
Oh, so Friday night footy.
How good.
You and me at the brewery.
Yep.
Across the road from the G. Actually, I'm on radio, so I'll be drinking soda water, but we'll get down there.
That'd be post-show.
Well, on that note, thank you again to our new friends, our new sponsors at St Andrews Beach Brewery and their new location at Melbourne Park. Please get down there and have a look. And remember to follow Tradies on iHeart, Spotify, or subscribe on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. And keep a lookout for the air raid. And Just Quickly. We'll see you next week, Tradies.